Hey, thank you for joining me again for another video on Success by Design, your comprehensive planning guide for all types of enterprises. We're going to be going through the final chapter on writing your business plan. This one focuses on exit and expansion strategies. But before I jump into that, I just want to remind you that you can jump onto our website at successbydesign.biz, that's B-I-Z, to get the copy of Success by Design, your comprehensive planning guide for all types of enterprises guide, and the companion workbook, as well as find additional videos and resources and the free downloadable worksheets for you to go ahead and start this process right away. So let's go ahead and jump into exit and expansion strategies. So this is the final component that we look at when we're talking about your business plan writing objectives. And it's chapter 12 in the book. And it goes through in the book. It doesn't get into too many details. It just talks about the different types of expansion and exit strategies. But what I want to talk to you about more importantly today is my background now as a certified exit planning advisor, a CEPA. We went through a training, and you can actually see the book behind me. I have a lot of books behind me, you guys, but this is Walking to Destiny by Christopher Snyder. And they have what's called basically the value acceleration methodology, which is really about exit planning. And what they do, and what I've learned and I am certified in, is that you really need to consider beginning with the end in mind. And so a lot of times entrepreneurs, business owners, they will go out with a specialty, a craft, a trade, a skill, and they will jump into a market and they will just start working that system just to kind of get out from whatever corporate structure they might have been under before, or maybe terrible leadership, or maybe just thinking they have more freedom and flexibility. And they do that with one goal in mind and more focus on what they've left behind rather than where they're going long term. And so the best way to talk about exit planning is it is good business strategy. When you build a business and you're doing all of the work in this business, you really want to be looking at it as a vehicle to get you to that next chapter of your life, okay, whatever that looks like. And if it's the end of your life and you're in great mental health and capacity, then maybe it's what is this going to leave behind for legacies that follow me. And so when we think about exit planning, it isn't necessarily only about, hey, what's the direction we're going out of? It's really more about, let's review where we're at, where we want to go, and let's evaluate or do evaluation of what exactly our company is worth, so that when we are ready to exit our business, or maybe we're looking at growth opportunities, we know exactly how much we can harvest out of our business. And so there is a little calculation that is very important for you to know, which is your personal wealth gap. So when you run a business, you need to know how your business is going to harvest the wealth you need for your personal and financial life goals. And if you don't know that, that's definitely something you need to sit down with a life coach or with a financial advisor and determine what your next chapter looks like after the business, or after several businesses, and you're gonna reinvest into a new idea, a new venture. Like, that's really something you have to sit down with and consider. So we use a really simple formula, and I love how Chris Snyder and his team call it simple math. But the wealth gap is essentially what you need to determine. And you're just going to look at your current assets, and you're going to look at your wealth goal. And there are formulas you can use to determine this. There's many different systems and softwares and applications out there that help you determine what your wealth goal is. But generally, you need to determine what your lifestyle looks like on an annual basis. How much income do you need to make on an annual basis? And you multiply that number by the 4% rule. So we just use that as a rule of thumb. There are many ways to calculate your wealth goal. Then you take all of your assets, anything you can turn into tangible cash, so that you can close that wealth goal, and you find out what your wealth gap is. So if you have, 4 million in assets and you need 10 million as your wealth goal, you have a $6 million wealth gap. And if you look at your business, your goal is to evaluate your business to determine if it will close that wealth gap. And oftentimes we look at our business and think it's worth a lot more because of the time, the energy, the sweat equity, all of the things and the growing pains that we've experienced as an owner that doesn't actually reflect on paper. So when you're doing your exit strategies and you're thinking about the end in mind, you need to make sure that you know what your personal wealth goal is, what your wealth current wealth is, your net wealth, and then also what your wealth gap is. And is your business set up for success to harvest that gap out of it when you are ready to exit your business or even expand? Or maybe you have different strategies that you want to do where you still work in the business, but you lose some of the owner share. So there's so many different directions you can take, but you really need to know those things first so that you can determine what this business is designed to do. And if you're familiar with Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kowalski, I always butcher his last name, Kowalski, I'm sure that's wrong, but he talks about the 4 quadrants of the cash flow. And you have your employee, you have your 1099 contractor, business owner, and then investor. And so when you're going from any of those mindsets, you need to know that your business is designed and should be designed in the beginning, especially through this planning process, to position you to become an investor, that you're just investing in something that's going to provide for your personal and personal financial life goals after this has ended on and in the next chapter. So keep that information in mind. We don't talk too much about the whole SEPA side of things in this book. I was certified after writing the first one. It's actually going to be found in the Success by Design Implementation and Accountability book, as well as Success by Design Steps to Starting, Managing, and Growing Your Enterprise. Those go into more of an educational component of why you need this information. And then, of course, you can always jump on our website, successbydesign.biz, get the free worksheets. It'll walk you through some of these things as well. And so when it comes to exit planning, keep in mind that it is just good business strategy and it's something that needs to be done ongoing. And when you're looking at exiting every year or every quarter, what you're doing is you're evaluating where your gap is and if it's closer to being closed. And there are what we call the 4 intangible capitals, which we also use to evaluate your company. So you might have, our sales are doing really well, or we're making a lot of profit, but you also need to look at other areas in your business to determine what your EBITDA is and, what are your 4 tangible C's, capital, human capital, capital and cash, your social capital, as well as the structural capital of your organization. What you might be doing, we've talked about this in operations as well, as what you might be doing at one level that is providing a profit, you may need to dump more money into scaling to that next level. So there's a lot of those components that go into that and factor into it. So it's really good to get educated on it in the beginning. And if you're already in it and you're starting and you're really going, okay, now we really want to tighten the reins here a little bit more, and you still have time. And even if you're at the end, there are so many different opportunities for you. And so some of the things we talk about when it comes to exit and expansion strategies, nobody gets into business thinking that they're going to get off the business highway. But statistically, I believe it's 70% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. So you definitely want to have a game plan in place. If it's not working, when are you going to quit? When are you going to say, we're done here? If you've, spent all your money in there and you put all these things into it and it's just not producing the return you envisioned it would, when are you going to get off the business highway? Okay. Or maybe you're doing really, really well, you're scaling really fast, but you don't know what the structural capacity needs to be in order to maintain and sustain your organization long-term. Then that's something you're going to be looking at when it comes to expansion. So where are you expanding? Are you merging with other companies? Are you going into different territory? Are you going to purchase out one of your suppliers? There are so many different things you can be looking at. Now, the chapter itself, it talks about building your business to be bought. So taking on that franchise mentality where it's like, if we were to streamline every single system in our business, every process, every onboarding step, all of those things were streamlined in a way that we could write a book about it and pass it off to someone else and they can actually start that same exact business. That's the ultimate goal. Now, of course, you want to protect proprietary information. You don't want all of this given to the wrong person or the wrong people or accessible online. You need to make sure you have the right safeguards in place for that. But you definitely want to figure out how are you going to make your business work at the lowest cost possible and maximize those profits without compromising integrity and structure and quality. So those are things that, it takes time and it takes research and all of those things. And it really takes passion and it takes a lot of integrity and it takes execution. So building your business to be bought is number one. And that's why exit planning is what you need to be looking at in the very beginning, okay? We talk about mergers. So, if you're starting a business or you're really like, hey, we're tapped out on resources or we don't have the resources to maximize, you might consider mergers with other companies who have some of the resources that you don't have. Or maybe they need to absorb you or you absorb them or whatever that might look like. So those are things to think about as well. You have acquisitions, like I mentioned, maybe you're absorbing someone else, so you're acquiring additional businesses that may do something that you do, or maybe they offer an extension of what you do that you just want to pull into that market share. So there's ways to do that. And like I mentioned earlier, dissolution we cover in here as well. So this is not an exhaustive list of exit and expansion strategies listed in here, but it does give you some idea of what to be thinking about long term. So that when you are ready to exit the business highway, or when you are ready to harvest the wealth from your business so that you can invest in that next chapter, you have a game plan there. And so what you do is you put these strategies in place and you revisit them regularly, and you work with the paraprofessionals that are going to help you draft up the right documents that are, buy and sell agreements, things of that nature. If you're working with someone else, you need to know what happens to the business if something happens to one of the owners. Those are things that you need to be addressing. Disability, life, how does money go over to the family? All of that needs to happen, and that's part of your exit strategy. So get on our website, successbydesign.biz, and download your free worksheets to get started on drafting up your own exit and expansion strategies. If you want more detail on that, I suggest that you get with a SEPA. If not myself, I would get with other SEPAs. They're certified exit planning advisors all across the nation, and they operate in many different ways. Some are financial advisors, some are basically just consultants, and some are actually boots on the ground working with your team over a long period of time to ensure that you are consistently operating your business in the most lean way possible without sacrificing quality, so that you can harvest that wealth gap upon that exit or in that next chapter. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I will have one more video for you that's about putting it all together. So stay tuned for that one. Check us out on YouTube. And also, again, go back to our website, successbydesign.biz. You can get all of the other videos that go along with the beginning of this book, as well as all of the free worksheets and access to the Success by Design series of books that we have available for you. Happy entrepreneuring. Thank you.